Hello and welcome, esteemed guests, to my channel. My name is Ainsley. Let's do stuff. Today we are doing another house building video in Windenburg. I just recently purchased Get Together, if I'm being honest, entirely for the talk about other Sims interaction, because I could just imagine the possibilities in gameplay. I'm toying with the idea of doing a Let's Play sometime in the next few months, and I really think that talk about other Sims or trash talk other Sims option will really lend something interesting to the storytelling. I've been wanting to do a tall and narrow build for a while. I've seen other YouTubers do their versions of tall and narrow. A lot of times they are industrial, not always of course, but the ones that I've seen and have liked. But I wanted to try doing something that was a little more traditional, especially because I saw that fitting very well with the aesthetic in Windenburg. And I chose to go with just 3 stories instead of going any taller, just because when you start getting up there with the camera, it kind of goes a little wonky on you, which isn't fun for building or for gameplay, so I capped it out at 3. I also went a bit wider than would have been the extreme version of narrow. You could do something that's, only 3 tiles wide and fit a single bed, but I wanted to make more of a family home, so I made it wide enough to comfortably fit a double. Getting the stairs to fit in was a bit of an ordeal. I had to extend the length of the house to give it enough room that you could go right up one set of stairs from the other. That was kind of the best option to make them fit, or at least the best option that I found. If you can think of an alternative, let me know in the comments below how you'd have done it. I removed the wall from under the stairs because in a building that's this narrow and tiny, I wanted to maximize the space, so to utilize that space that was under the stairs instead of have it be wasted. Practically for gameplay, there aren't many objects you can put underneath that you can interact with once you go so far under the stairs, but you can at least clutter them up and give it the illusion that it's being used. Here I'm playing around with the layout of the kitchen. I try it a few different ways before I finally settle on something I like. I wasn't sure how to lay it out best to make use of the space, so it goes through a few iterations before it's finished. What I do manage to fit at least partially under the staircase is the dining table, and then I put the living room upstairs. I don't think that's particularly strange as far as layouts go. Not everyone has their kitchen and living room in an open concept space, so putting them on separate floors like this seemed normal enough. I had a really hard time with the layout of the front of the build. I knew I wanted to put one window in the apex of that roof. I actually really like that window that came with Get Together for this particular build, but I was having trouble with the symmetry. Asymmetry in builds bothers me, unless it's very deliberate and is repeated throughout other elements of the build. Does anybody else feel that way about their builds? Let me know in the comments below. I also tried surrounding that shower in the bathroom with mirrors, which I've done in some builds and has looked really cool, but I couldn't get it to work quite the way I wanted in this one, so I went without. I also put an ensuite in the master bedroom, which I moved to the top floor. I had originally thought of putting it on the bottom floor, but I decided to move it. An ensuite might not seem like an obvious choice in a building this small, but I didn't want to forego those little luxuries. I thought they would make a quirky house like this appealing to a buyer. It would be a selling factor for a house that has this strange a layout. I'm taking another pass at the kitchen. I almost have it now. I still move the fridge after this, but I'm getting closer to the end result. I wanted room for a 4th dining chair because it was about at this time that I decided to make the bedroom downstairs a double bedroom for 2 children. The way I designed it, it's probably suited better for teenagers. I didn't put in any toys. It's a really streamlined design, just your bare bones, 2 beds, a dresser, and I do put in a mirror later. I experimented with a desk, but I end up putting that upstairs. Here I am working on the living room. I think that is my favorite spot in the house. I really like the way it turns out. I also fit in quite a few things for skill building. I end up with an easel and a bookshelf and a guitar there, so there's plenty for your Sims to do. That's another reason I can see teenagers working really well in that bedroom downstairs, since one could maybe be a painter and another a musician. For some people, a bedroom really is just where they go to bed at night. It's not where they spend the most of their time. So those are the kind of people I see living in this house. The parents do get a very nice master suite with a very nice tub though. I am a sucker for a nice jet tub. I don't hide that fact either. I think anyone who knows me knows how much I like my baths. That's the rubric I use to measure my own success. That's how I'll know I've made it when my bathroom has a jet tub. You'll notice that I furnished before picking out my flooring and my wall color. And I do that a lot. I find it's easier to match the swatches of your floors and your walls to the furniture you pick out than trying to coordinate your furniture around the walls and the floors that you go with. At least in The Sims, I find it sometimes difficult to get cohesive looks for your furniture. I don't know if it's because of limited swatch options or styles that are a bit mismatched, but that's why I go with the furniture first and then put the walls of the floor on top of that. Sometimes if I'm particularly inspired by an idea like light floors and dark walls, I'll do that first. But more often than not, it's getting the lay of the furniture first that I find most helpful. And I tend to lay the same flooring and wall color throughout the entire house. I just love the way that that looks. It's so cohesive. It's one of those things that I wish I did in my own house. I watch a lot of Flip or Flop on HGTV, and every time Tarek and Christina run the same flooring throughout the house and match the bathroom tile to the kitchen tile, I just sing inside. My whole being lights up. Mark that down under things I didn't expect would come with adulthood. Unbridled joy at coordinating floor tile. I experimented with the idea of cabinets, but I felt like putting them really made the space feel even more cramped and restricted, so I decided to opt out. In a nice big kitchen I do like them, but in this case it didn't feel like it fit. I also was a bit more minimal with the clutter for that reason as well. I wanted to both give The Sims a lot of usable space for gameplay, but also make sure it didn't look too crowded. Also, fun fact, that mirror behind the bed is totally usable. At least it is to practice speech. I player tested it and it works. If it doesn't work for the other interactions, you do have 2 mirrors elsewhere in the house, 1 in each bathroom, so you're not out of options. I'm adding a rug here in the living room to finish the look off. I'm so happy with how it turned out. It has that nice, warm, cozy feel. I feel like a lot of the builds that I do are very modern and contemporary. They have a lot of white and black and gray, so doing this warmer color palette was really refreshing. It was nice to try something different. I also went through the bathroom and used towels that are different than the ones I usually use, which seems like such a small thing, but sometimes you find a favorite and you don't really shake out of that. It's really nice sometimes to just do something different. And from the perspective of someone who's trying to build a channel, it's also nice to not always present your viewers with the exact same thing. I probably haven't made enough videos now for you to really get a sense of my style, but trust me, I have one. I definitely have one. I'm just going through and putting some toilet paper rolls and hand towels in the bathrooms. I really like that detail. It makes the space feel so lived in. Also, I see that the design of the toilet paper roll is correct, with the toilet paper going over the roll instead of under. Let me know your preference in the comments below. If you have one, my preference is definitely for over. Though I will entertain a case for under, provided you can adequately justify it. MLA formatted sources only, please. I put a wardrobe in this bedroom, even though I know that technically it would suffice to have just the one downstairs, or even to have none at all. You can use the mirrors or you can select your sim. But as someone whose clothes are spilling out of her own closet when it's probably double the size, I find it hard to picture a room without one. What I did end up foregoing is side tables. They felt too big in that space. It's a shame we don't have more narrow side tables. Even the most narrow one that we do have with the game, I felt looked too big in that space. Also, if you're anything like me, your phone just ends up on your bed instead of on your end table, so there isn't much point to having one even in real life. I absolutely love this painting that came with Get Famous. I tried it out in a couple of swatches and they all looked great, but I settled on the one that looks sort of like a landscape that's very stark blue blue and red. Now, I said I moved the desk upstairs, and I did, but it doesn't end up exactly like that. When I go back and player test the house, that desk doesn't work where it is, so it's not in the video, but I change it up a bit. I cut some of the corner to leave room for the desk to come out more, and it is changed in the screenshot, so you'll see what I mean. With the interior done, I move on to the exterior. I pick out that very Tudor style, I guess is what it is, wallpaper. I kind of think of it as very Germanic. I had the opportunity to spend some time in Europe when I was in high school, and a lot of the houses on my drive through Germany really remind me of the way that this looks. I think Windenburg is meant to be based off Germany anyway, and to my limited knowledge, it really hits the mark. I have to say, I really like the build and buy options from Get Together. I used a lot of them in this build. I can see myself in the future doing builds that mix the older looking items from Get Together with some more modern features. I think that would be really cool. Let me know in the comments below if that's something you'd like to see. Doing the landscaping, I did find that I was frustrated that a lot of the trees that appear around the world in Windenburg aren't there in the build menu. I wish I could have gotten foliage that better matched the surroundings. As it was, I just kind of had to settle for this. It's alright, but I don't love it like I could have. I tried placing that pond that came with Get Famous, I think it is, but I didn't like how manicured it looked compared to the more rustic, woodsy look of Windenburg, so I changed it out for, I think it's a pool or possibly a fountain, one or the other. No, okay, I'm using a pool trim, so it must be a pool. I make it look a bit more like a natural pond by adding some rocks around the periphery and a few bits of greenery on top of the surface of the water. I didn't need to make it look perfect since obviously based on where it's placed and how small it is, it's a man-made pond. I knew a few people growing up who had man-made koi ponds, and I always really liked them, so I don't mind that it looks a bit fake here. It's kind of supposed to. Out on the front deck space, I put a little table with some chairs. It's not enough to seat the whole family, but it wasn't really supposed to be. I don't see it as a space for them to eat full meals together, but maybe just a spot to quietly in the morning sit with some coffee or some breakfast and look out at nature. What I didn't get a chance to player test was that mailbox. You'll have to double check that that works, because I didn't have any bills to pay or anything to put in the mail to see. Also, I know I didn't include a garden, but I just love that garden hose detail. When I was growing up, I had a garden hose that was attached to the outside of my house, so I always really like including that in builds. I'm also a sucker for some good terrain paint to show the movement of Sims, so here I drew little pathways connecting the pond and the front deck. And I also put some terrain paint under the trees and around the pond in places I thought the earth might be a bit disturbed. The last touch was to add some little lanterns to the front deck as well as the two balcony spaces. I didn't include anything on those balcony spaces, they're not really big enough for it, but I imagine it as a place that your Sims can go out just to kind of take in some fresh air. And with that, we are on to the screenshots. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate every view and every like and every comment. Let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed this build, what you liked, what you didn't, what you might do different, and especially let me know if there's anything in particular you'd like to see me do. I'm always open to suggestions. Also, special shout out, the music in this video was done by a friend of my brother's. They work together sometimes on some songs. I'll link his SoundCloud below. I listened to a lot of the songs while I was editing this video. They're really good. I'll definitely be using more in the future. But anyway, that's it for this video. Make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, get out there and do stuff.